Hello and welcome. Today we are going to talk about taxes. I know it's not the most cheerful subject, but if you are considering buying a property in Spain, there are fees and taxes that you have to consider as part of your budget. So in this video, I will tell you what are the fees related to the purchase process, which fees you must pay as a buyer, and what are the taxes that you must pay if you buy a second-hand property or if you buy a new development properties, because there are some differences. And if you are kind enough to stay until the end of this video, I will also tell you what is the easiest and safest way to pay these taxes, so you are sure that everything is done properly, without any issues, delays, and you don't have any problem whatsoever. I am Daniela Gnecchi, the Real Estate Bee, and this is my channel where you will learn everything that you need to know to purchase a property in Spain as a foreigner. The more you know, the better decision you make and the safer the whole purchase process is going to be. Let's start from the fees. First fee, the agency. If you buy a new development property, the agency is always paid by the seller, the developer. The price you pay is exactly the same whether you go straight to the developer or you buy through an agency, and the agency in this case may give you much more support than what you can get by going to purchase directly with the promoter. If you buy a second-hand property, there may be different scenarios. Usually, even for second-hand properties, the agency is paid by the seller. Those agencies that put in the advertisement, "We don't charge the buyer," it's a bit of a bait to push them to work with them, because usually the agency is always paid by the seller. Now, there may be rare cases in which the agency asks the buyer to pay for their fee. For example, if the seller is in a very difficult situation, they must sell very quick and they must sell at a reduced price, the agency may ask the buyer to pay for their fee. But if you find an agency that is asking for a sale commission to the seller and to you as a buyer, try to understand the situation, because it is not usual, and in my opinion, it also represents a bit of a conflict of interest to charge both parties of the same transaction. Usually in Spain, the agency is paid by the seller, so it's not a fee that you have to consider in your purchase. If you apply for a mortgage to finance your purchase, there are two fees that you have to consider. One, the appraisal of the property. This is something that you must do and must pay. The price varies depending on the agency that takes care of that, and they must be registered agencies. It is usually between 250 and 600 euros. Take into account that the appraisal has a duration of 6 months. So time accordingly, because otherwise, if you don't sign the purchase deeds within these 6 months, you have to do a second appraisal. As for the mortgage, usually banks don't charge a fee. If they do, this fee may be around 2% maximum fee. These two has been a bit controversial over the past years, so we will talk about mortgages specifically in a dedicated video. So please subscribe so you will be notified when I publish new videos. But bear in mind that the bank must be very clear and transparent about all the fees. If they are not, it may be considered an abusive action that you can test, but usually a fee for a mortgage may be a maximum of 2%. But as I said, There may be, there may not be, and we will talk about it in a dedicated video. But the appraisal, it's definitely a fee that you will have to consider, and it's between 250 and 600 euros. Other possible fees, optional fees, are lawyers. If you decide to hire a lawyer, you will have to pay for the lawyer, of course. And we will talk about lawyers because they have different ways of charging their fees. If you hire a personal shopper who is the equivalent of the buyer's agent, someone who works for you to help you find the perfect property, you will have to pay for a personal shopper, but in this case you will save a lot of money on travels and a lot of time, and time is money. So these fees are optional if you want to hire these professionals. The fee that you must always consider whether you buy a second-hand property or a new development property is the notary. The notary is chosen by the buyer and is paid by the buyer. Notary fees are regulated by the state, and all the notaries must charge the same fees. These fees go between 600 and 875 euros. It depends on the price of the property, but bear in mind that the notary doesn't charge only these fees, they also charge some additional fees for the staff, the people who actually worked on your operation, for the civil insurance, for printing, binding and preserving your purchase deeds. They charge usually also by number of pages. The purchase deed is a very standard document. It's usually more or less the same number of pages. But if you buy properties in specific conditions, for example, when the purchase is made in the context of a legal operation, as can be an auction or something like that, in this case there may be many more pages because there are many attached documents, and you may end up having to pay more for the printing, binding and the registering also of all these pages. Usually consider for the notary a fee that may go from 1,000 to 1,500, 1,800, rarely more than that. I am giving you a ballpark cost because it really depends on the specific cases, but you will never pay 5,000 euros for a notary. So this is more or less the range of fee that you have to consider for the notary, between 1,000 and a very maximum of 2,000, more likely around 1,500. So this is it for the fees. The fees that you always must take into account are the notary, and if you apply for a mortgage, the appraisal of the property. Now, let's move on to the taxes. If you buy a second-hand property, the tax that you must pay is called ITP, Impuesto sobre la Transmisión Patrimonial, or Property Transfer Tax. This tax is a percentage of the price of the property that is registered in the purchase deeds. This percentage varies according to the autonomous region of Spain where the property is located. It goes from 6 to 10%. Now, if you go to my website, therealestatebit.com, on the homepage you can scroll down and subscribe to my newsletter. If you subscribe to my newsletter, you will receive a summary of everything that I am explaining in this video and a table with the specific amount of this tax in the different regions of Spain. You will also be able to download a free 26-page buyer's guide with a lot of detailed information about the purchase process. And you will receive regular tips, tutorial, information, market updates from me only when I have something relevant to say. So don't worry. Alternatively, put something in the comments below and I will send you the link and the information. The property transfer tax must be paid within 30 days from the signature of the purchase deeds, and I will tell you later on in the video what is the best and safest way to pay for it. If you buy a new development property, a newly built unit, you pay VAT. VAT is 10% across all Spain, with the exception of the Canary Islands where it is 6.5%. VAT is paid on each payment that you make. Whenever you pay a part of the purchase price to the developer, you will pay the purchase price plus the 10% VAT. On newly built properties, you also have to pay the stamp duty, which in Spain it's called AJD, Actos Jurídicos y Documentales. Again, this is a tax that is different in the different autonomous communities of Spain. And again, if you subscribe to my newsletter, you will receive exactly the amount in each region. It goes from 0.1% to 2%. And again, it's something that you have to pay after signing the purchase deeds at the notary. Finally, whether you have purchased a new development property or a second-hand property, there is another tax that you must pay, and it's the registry tax. It's the tax that you have to pay for the property to be registered in your own name in the property registry of Spain. This tax goes from 0.1% to 0.25% of the price of the property, but there is a maximum limit of around 2,200 euros. It's, to be precise, is 2,181.67 euros. So the tax cannot be higher than this amount, regardless of the price of the property you have purchased. And this is another tax that must be paid after the signature of the purchase deeds in the process of registering the property in your name in the property registry. So, to sum up, after the signature of the purchase deeds, there are 3 taxes that you still have to pay, which are the property transfer tax if you have bought a second-hand property, the AJD, the stamp duty if you have bought a newly built property, and the registry tax. Regardless of what you have bought, you always have to pay it. What is the best way to pay these taxes? The easiest and safest way to take care of this is to ask the notary to do it for you. The notary will pass this process to their management agency. It's called gestoria in Spanish. It's like an accountancy agency. It's someone who takes care of liquidating these taxes for you and do all the registrations that are needed. This agency will ask you for a provision of funds to cover all the cost that of the taxes, and if some money is left after they've done all the payments, then they will give you the money back. The fee associated to this process is around 300 euros, 200, 300. It depends on the different agencies, because in this case there are private agencies that take care of that. And it's included in this provision of funds that they ask you to pay. And when everything is paid, of course, you will receive their invoice and you will receive all the paperwork, the proof that the taxes have been paid, everything that you need to be reassured that it's been done. It's been done in time, it's been done properly, and you will never have any issues related to this. Alternatively, you can ask your lawyers to take care of this, in which case, when you hire the lawyer, tell them that you want them to take care about this, so they can already tell you if it's something that they can do or if they advise you to do it in a different way. I know I have given you a lot of information in a very short time, but don't worry, because we will talk about this again. We will talk in detail about aspects like notaries, lawyers, mortgages, and other related things. And don't worry, because if you go to my website, you can find the information, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and you will receive a lot of tips, advice, tutorial, and everything that you need to make the best choices. Remember, knowledge is power, and money too. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I will see you very soon.